moving into our super fun segment of the day, which is talking about those Portland Trailblazers. Man, how do you guys feel about the Blazers right now? Because I'm feeling some type of way right now.
I don't remember the last time that I texted my dad and said, I think the Mariners are better than the Blazers right now. But that's kind of where we're at. The
Yeah.
Mariners are in first place, and the Blazers just look like they don't care. Now, I mean, Dame is hurt right now, and they just announced today that he'll be out again against the Clippers tomorrow, as will Yusuf Nurkic, because they're just managing his injuries. But at this point, I mean, Portland let themselves get down by 3 to Charlotte. They end up only losing by 8, but it's a moot point. They just look disinterested. Half their games this year, they look like they don't care if they win or they lose. So that's a little frustrating to see. And even the local media, who's historically, with a few exceptions, actually been pretty favorable toward Terry Stotts and the franchise as a whole, even they're starting to really be critical and be like, there should not be this many issues. And what seem to be almost internal issues with 16 games left in this season when you're a veteran team that came in hoping to compete.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think the biggest issue I have is when you watch the games, half the time they aren't trying. Because you can fix a lot of other issues and you can kind of look past a lot of issues going into the playoffs, especially just by assuming players are going to play harder in the playoffs. The game's going to slow down, so everything's going to be tighter. And we have players that have played in a ton of close games. But, I mean, it's just how they manage when they're not putting in 100% effort is really, really bad. And so in those moments in the playoffs, the teams are going to, like the Lakers are going to go on a 12-0 run and you're out of the game. So, yeah, it's not encouraging to see like how disinterested they can get in playing basketball, which is their profession.
Yeah, it's been very tough to watch over the last, I don't know, what's it been now, 10, 12 games. Just the disinterest has definitely been a problem all year. We had that stretch, what was it, back in January, February, where Dame went off when we had those injuries to both CJ and Nurk. And the rest of the team was starting to step up. We had Covington start to play really well. We had him and DJJ both starting to pair up well defensively. Nas Little was getting in there playing well, which I still have high hopes for him, and I think he's going to be a really good rotation player here in the next couple of years. But it just felt like the team was just starting to get together, and then right before, I'm not going to pin it on CJ or Nurk because I don't think that's what the problem is at all. But right before CJ came back, things started to kind of crumble apart again once Dame cooled off, and the chemistry just hasn't been there at all. And it's disappointing to see from veterans just blowing leads, not getting up early on inferior opponents. There really haven't been that many positives about this team that I can think of, and unfortunately, I think that there's a lot of internal issues right now. I think it goes past the roster because this roster should not be this bad. This is arguably our most talented roster that we've had in the Dame and CJ era.
Yeah, what I think is interesting and also discouraging, frankly, a couple points. One being that I can't remember the last time in the Dame and CJ era where the team regressed at this point in the season instead of
Mm-hmm.
improving. Portland's always
Yeah.
started really slow and then turned it up at the end and then just kind of run out of gas in the playoffs because basically we've run Dame and CJ into the ground.
Right.
Uh, that's not what's happened this year. CJ's rested. Dame's been a little banged up, but he's been able to rest. Nurkic has been hurt, so he hasn't had to play a full season. And to my second point, I don't look at a single player on the roster and been like, they've been bad this season.
Yeah.
I don't. Like every player you can look and be like, actually, they've been pretty good.
Yep.
But as a whole, they just look like they don't care specifically on defense. There's no ball movement on offense. Every win basically comes when either Dame, CJ, occasionally Carmelo, or maybe now a Norman Powell just has a really, really good game, which they're, of course, capable of doing. But Portland's not playing up to their potential on offense. and they look completely disinterested on defense, which has resulted, as we've seen in the last couple months since the All-Star break, the trend of Portland's going to beat the bad teams because the bad teams are bad and Portland's just more talented, and Portland's not going to beat a good team because they can't play good team basketball like the Clippers or the Nuggets or the Lakers or the Jazz.
Yeah, Portland, like when you watch them play, they look like 5 dudes playing pickup ball, which is good enough to beat like young players. Like you pull in Melo and then you see getting subbed in some young wing and you're like, oh, Melo's going to cook him in the post. But then you see Melo on Kawhi Leonard and he's shooting a contested like shot that has no chance of going in. So yeah, I know they seem to be at their max because they don't run plays on offense. They just guard who guards them on defense. Like it's very bizarre what their plan even is some games, which is odd. That hasn't been the same. Portland has been like honestly too consistent, but they've always had a game plan, and Terry Stotts has always had different sets to run in games. But now it literally feels like they just give the ball to Dame and move out of the way, and then Dame gives the ball to CJ and then they move out of the way, and then CJ gives the ball to Carmelo Anthony and then they move out of the way. Like it's just one person at a time basketball.
Yeah, it's been one person at a time basketball on the offensive end, which kind of makes me think of our pickup games that we've been playing, John, because I always make the joke like, oh, look, we've got me, you, and a couple of our other buddies who like to shoot the ball. We're playing Blazer ball out there. But
yes, sir.
But even defensively, like yesterday against Charlotte, you have Canner, who's, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit for what Canner's done on the offensive end, and which has been amazing. He really has filled in well on that part, but defensively, he just cannot keep up. And when we're pairing him and Melo out there at the same time, which for some reason Stotts just will not go away from this year, he is obsessed with that lineup pairing out there. They just get cooked out there. I saw multiple times where Rozier was out on the wing. They'd set a screen for Rozier. He'd go around it, and Canner would mess up the communication or would try and follow. It was just a disorganized mess out there on the three-point line. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys cannot figure out any sort of scheming on defense. You can't figure out any rotation on defense. I almost feel like that they know the writings on the wall for the coaching staff, and the coaching staff just kind of doesn't care, and that's reflecting on the players.
Did you guys see the video that was circulating on social media? It was before this most recent Jazz game where Portland played really well for the first half, and then Utah just kicked Portland's butt in the third quarter, and Portland just looked lost after halftime. There was a video that was circulating, and Jason Quick actually either responded to it or quote tweeted it. A few other Blazer beat writers did as well. It was of Quinn Snyder before the game. He's got his guys. He's drawing up a play. He's talking to Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. You can tell he's saying, go get this one for us. He's got a plan. He's got them getting organized. And then it cuts to Terry Stotts, who's sitting on the bench by himself, just like patting his knee, just like kind of sitting there like, la-di-da, we're playing a basketball game tonight.
Yikes.
Whereas Utah is like getting ready to play a playoff game because they're like, we need this tiebreaker over a division rival. And Portland's like, yeah. And so it stems down from the top. And so in the playoffs, you just expect a first round loss because you don't see that fire. If Dame, CJ, and Nurk are all healthy, I would expect Portland to win a game because we are at the point where Dame and CJ are talented enough to go win a playoff game. But the disinterest and the apathy and the defense is what's so frustrating is for as bad as the defense was yesterday in the first and third quarters, Portland actually held Charlotte under 25 points in the second quarter. And there were multiple times where Charlotte scored like 4 or 5 points in like a 5-minute stretch. So it's not like Portland's incapable on defense, especially with guys like Powell, Rocco, and Derrick Jones Jr. when Stotts decides to play Derrick Jones Jr.,
right?
Which that's a whole different tangent we could go on. But yeah, it looks like they don't care. And yeah, like you said, the writing is on the wall with the coaching staff and the players probably know it. Some of the players know they're probably not going to be back in Portland next year. And it just looks like they've got their sights set on the offseason.
Yeah, I was reading an article, probably a couple of days ago that was comparing this team to the year the Raptors had Dwayne Casey when he won Coach of the Year and then got fired. to hire, of course, Nick Nurse. And I think it's pretty similar in the fact, not in the fact that we're losing LeBron James every year, though we might again lose LeBron James in the first round.
Probably.
It feels like that because we've been in the playoffs. We're known to be in the playoffs and to make some noise in the playoffs, but we have never been known to be competing for a championship. Like at no point that we've had Damian Lillard have we actually been like top tier championship contenders. And so having 8 years of not being a top level championship contender, but making the playoffs about every year is just, it's not good enough. Like we're striving for mediocrity at the point, and that's just, it's not going to last long, especially with potentially new ownership. It's you would imagine the team is going to be at least somewhat resetting in the offseason.
Yeah, and it's a bummer too, because this has been the first time in years that I've thought Olshey's done probably since the initial rebuild after Aldridge, Matthews, Batum, and all them left. I thought this was his best offseason, quite frankly.
Yes.
So it's sad to see that we finally have the personnel to at least be up there with Denver, Phoenix, and Utah. And then the coaching staff and the whole attitude just sucks this year. It's so frustrating to see as a fan, and I'm sure it's frustrating to the players too, but it's been a real bummer. This has probably been, I'm more upset about this year than I was last year, having to go from a Western Conference final team to a team that was really truly awful. Like it's just so irritating.
I completely agree, because last year we could tell that Portland was bad. Like it was just like, Olshey messed up the offseason. That sucks. But then he went out and, like, I don't think you're wrong, Kendall. I think just in terms of bringing in talent, and even with the Powell trade at the deadline, he built his most talented team. He did.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's close. I think that Seth Curry veteran guard shooting off the bench isn't there this year, but that is overcomable, to be sure.
Yes.
Especially with the length on the perimeter that Portland has. And Portland has 2 legit centers.
Yep.
It should work, but the apathy makes it not.
Yeah, they Olshey got 12 playable NBA playoff rotation players. Which is, not even just Portland history. That's a really good accomplishment in one off season. So, he did do a good job, and there's no reason for them not to fit well. They're one of those teams that it's a bunch of good players. So in 2K, they always dominate, but they aren't actually good in real life. Because you look at talent wise, and is this team much worse than Utah? Just looking at talent in a vacuum.
I think that they could be better.
I think they could be.
Yeah.
They don't have the elite defensive player that Gobert is, but almost no team does.
Yeah.
And Portland's best player is better than Utah's best player.
Yes.
100%. But what Utah has that Portland doesn't is that coach that brings them together.
So just kind of playing devil's advocate, if we had a guy like Nick Nurse or Eric Spoelstra, where do you guys think we'd be at right now? What would be the narrative this year?
I think it would be considered a 6-team race in the West instead of a 5-team race. Because I think the West is still talented enough where we could have our best season of the Lillard and McCollum era and still lose in the first round. Because I think the top 6 in the West in this scenario, in reality, it's the top 5, but in this scenario where Portland's playing with fire and maximizing their talent, a top 6 in the West, the Clippers are really good. But I think with the Jamal Murray injury, Portland would be better than Denver. I would feel confident against Phoenix in the playoffs just because of Portland's playoff experience compared to relatively none for the Suns, outside of Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. Utah, I think Portland could beat Utah in a series. I wouldn't feel amazing against the Clippers or the Lakers, but I wouldn't say no, especially against the Clippers.
Yeah, definitely. Well, unfortunately, it has just not been the year. Coming into this final month here, I don't really see things changing, honestly. And even if they do change, I just think it's a little bit too late, unless if we somehow get a favorable matchup in the playoffs to where anything really does happen. But on that note, we are going to be changing the tune a little bit and heading into NBA Blazer draft. Drew, can you explain to the audience what we're going to be doing here?
Absolutely. So I am currently entering all 3 of the wide ball starters into a wheel to get our draft going. So what we're going to do is we are going to draft our all-time Blazer team. This isn't a completely new concept necessarily. We've seen this with, for instance, JJ Redick's podcast, where he'll do like random drafts of various topics like basketball movies or, something to that regard. So we're going to pick our all-time Blazers team. There will be 30 picks total to simulate kind of the first round of the NBA draft. Each of us will pick 10 players. We'll do it in a traditional snake format. I'm spinning the wheel right now. The first pick will go to John LaValley.
Oh, boy.
And the second pick will go to me, Drew Lawson. So I will be picking second.
Nice.
Kendall will be picking third. And then obviously in the second round, that snakes, and Kendall will get the first pick of the second round. We'll just go like that, 10 rounds. As I explained, this is all-time Blazers. Here's the interesting catch. When you draft a player, and I really want to stress this for our listeners at home, when you draft a player, you get that player in their prime. So you get the best version of that player for your team. We'll post our teams on social media, and we'll ask you, the listener, to let us know who you think has the best team with that stipulation in mind that, you get this player at their best automatically in this draft. 10-man roster. After 5, we'll pause and take a look at each guy's starter, but now we know that it's going to be John, Drew, Kendall, and then snake back Kendall, Drew, John, Drew, Kendall, XYZ after 5 rounds. After we each have 5 players, which let me think of how that would work. That would end with Kendall making a pick. We'll pause and take a look at our starters, and then we'll jump into building our bench. So let's go. John LaValley, you are first on the board for our all-time Blazers draft.
Yes. Call me a sucker for the modern NBA, but I'm going to go with Damian Lillard. It's hard to pick
for the
against
modern
him.
NBA.
Oh, okay. Drew, what's your
Thank you. Well, I figured if I wasn't first, I was not going to get Damian Lillard, which is sad, but it's all good. So where we really have to think here with the stipulation, if we get this player at the absolute max, I have heard, watching various documentaries about, old 90s basketball, talking to my dad, who's a big time 90s basketball fan, that this man, if he came to the NBA early, may have been one of the best, if not the best basketball players of all time. He's a Hall of Famer, so I'm going to take Arvydas Sabonis.
Oh, interesting. I think I'm going to go with Clyde Drexler then. That's who I thought you were going to take, but I'm going to go with Clyde for my first pick. And then leading off then into the second, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say Bill Walton, just because he was so good before his injuries. Plus, I think he would kind of build a good team around Clyde. So
that's a really good 2-man game, Bill and Clyde.
Yeah.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I think it would be
you
a
actually
really good
made this really
game.
Easy. You left me my guy, fortunately for me. This one's actually a little easy for me. I'm taking Scottie Pippen. If I get prime Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, you left this pretty hard for me, not going to lie.
Because
I was hoping that Scottie would fall to me.
John sweating out here.
I have to find a new running mate for Dame. And I think I'm going to stick with a backcourt running mate, and I'm going to go with someone who we don't know if we fully saw his prime or not. He's one of the biggest what-if stories in the NBA history. I'm going to go with Brandon Roy.
Yeah,
great pick.
I think that's a really good pick.
It is John's turn again now. Since
yes, that's true.
And we love to see that. I'm so sorry. There are a lot of players. to
There
go
are a
through.
lot of players.
I know. I was looking through this list. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many good names on here.
There is a lot of dudes that I am like, wow, that dude played for us.
Like Hashim the Beat. I'm like, whoa, that's right.
Oh, I might pick Hashim Thabit. My next pick might be kind of a sleeper pick, might be kind of a bad pick. But my next pick is going to be Rasheed Wallace.
I love that pick.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like
That's
that
a
pick
good
lot.
one. I'm gonna
It's
go.
my turn, Kendall.
Oh my gosh!
Kendall, it's my turn.
I can't.
Yeah, jeez, Kendall.
This is harder
Kendall
than
out
actually
here
picking the
cheating as
players.
usual.
Kendall trying to tamper as usual.
Fine,
Kendall, just remember that you have 2 picks. You have 2 picks in a row, and then you don't pick again for several picks, and you always come after me.
I will probably forget that, but thank you for the
In this
heads up.
format. You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, let's see. I've got in the 3rd round here, I've got Sabonis and Pippen, which I'm pretty happy about. I need a guard, and obviously Brandon Roy and Damian Lillard are 2 of the best, and they're gone. So I'm going to take Terry Porter.
Good pick. Good pick.
Yeah.
Kendall, 2 in a row.
I'm gonna pick Carmelo Anthony actually for one of them because Prime Melo, you cannot
Let's
go wrong.
go 3 to the
And-
dome.
And 3 to the dome. And you guys call me Melo haters, so I don't want to hear it anymore. We're gonna go with Melo, and I'm kind of trying to mentally sort what position I need.
See, Kendall's not writing this down.
No, I am ish.
Ish.
I think I'm gonna go with Petrie. I think I'm gonna go with Petrie
Michael-
for my second.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jeff Petrie.
Yeah.
Jeff Petrie. Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I was thinking of Michael Petrus. I was very confused.
No.
Okay.
Jeff Petrie.
So that you've made your 2 in a row, Kendall.
Yes, I have.
Okay, let's see. I need some shooting. So I'm going to take Steve Smith.
Ooh,
Steve Smith.
Nice.
Can't go wrong with that.
Oh, right. Right now, I have a nice backcourt of Dame and Brandon Roy and a front court running mate of Rasheed Wallace, but I need a center, and then I think I need some perimeter defense as well. So going through here, I will, for my first pick, I know I need a perimeter defender, and so I'm going to go with Gerald Wallace. Someone that Portland got a little past his prime, but in his prime, not much as an offensive player, but he was a very good perimeter defender in the NBA. Kind of reminds me of a dude like Robert Covington that could guard inside and out, play some small ball. So now I need a center, and I'm sorry, I'm a slow typer. And also, I'm slow at looking for my players.
You good.
There's a lot of names on here, man.
There's so many names.
There
on
are
here.
so many. I saw one. It sucks too because there's always like I feel like I'm missing someone.
Right?
Ooh, Anthony
I know.
Tolliver.
It's don't do it. Don't do it.
You should do
Okay.
it.
I think I have to. I'm kidding, of course. Oh my goodness. I have a name in the back of my head that if I can't find. Oh. And my last pick is someone that Portland had at the very end of his career. Oh, actually was saying that. I remembered someone that I actually am going to pick. My original pick I was going to say was Chris Kaman, but while saying that statement, I actually remember that Portland had Pau Gasol at the end of his career.
Oh,
go
that
with
is
Nice.
true.
Good job.
That is
Good
really
job.
good. That's really good. I like
Excellent
that.
work. Excellent work. Well, so I really like my defense with Scottie Pippen. I've got a distributor in Terry Porter. I've got my star in Sabonis, and I've got some shooting in Steve Smith. I need a little bit more physicality inside, so I am going to go with Zach Randolph.
Good pick.
Yep, I like that. I like that.
All right, one more from Kendall, and then we will take a look at our starters.
This is hard because I really need a point. And this is where my lack of some of the history kind of gets me.
May I remind you that Johnny Flynn is still on the board.
Thank you for the reminder, John.
Raymond Felton also still on the board.
That is also true. Raymond Felton has not been picked yet, according to my knowledge.
Tim Frazier as
Dan
well
Dickau.
on the board.
Dan Dickau.
Dan Dickau. That's also a solid one. Not quite the position I'm looking for, though. I think I'm gonna go with let's go with Steve Blake. Let's go with Steve Blake.
Our man.
You got to go with a little bit of you gotta show the love to Steve out here.
Friend of the pod, Steve Blake.
Friend of the pod, Steve Blake.
Friend of the pod. He might not know it yet, but he is a friend.
So
he
of the
will
pod.
be.
So investigating our point guard lineup between Damian Lillard, Terry Porter, and Steve Blake, who do you guys think is the best suited for point guard success?
Steve Blake, of course.
Yeah,
Steve
probably
Blake, hands
Steve
down.
Blake. 100%.
So for my starters, I've got Sabonis, Pippen, Porter, Steve Smith, and Zach Randolph, which I feel really good about. How about you guys?
I have Dame, Brandon Roy, Gerald Wallace, Sheed, and Pau Gasol. So I'm feeling pretty good.
That's really good.
well.
That's a pretty dang good team.
That's really good.
I've got Steve Blake, Clyde Drexler, Jeff Petrie, Carmelo Anthony, and Bill Walton.
I like it. I like it a lot. Well, you guys ready to round this out and fill up a bench unit?
Yes,
We'll
sir.
be starting off with the 6th round with Kendall, working backward.
6th round. Oh man, this is where it's gonna get really tough, and I'm gonna apologize to advance for anybody who listens this far because I'm probably gonna massively offend somebody at some point. I'm gonna go with we haven't picked Aldridge yet, have we?
No.
I'm gonna go with Aldridge.
Yeah,
Good
there you
pick.
go. For a bench player, that's solid. Well, my pick, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Generally, off the bench, you need a bucket. So I want CJ McCollum.
Yeah,
Good
that's fair.
pick.
That's fair.
That leaves me for my first of 2 picks, and this one is easy. I already wrote him down and prayed that Drew didn't take him. Someone that actually did play particularly well in Portland, but considered
I know who it
by
is.
many
I know
to
who
be
it
the
is.
best bench player of all time, Jamal Crawford.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That
Which
is
leads me to another pick. This one, kind of a weird one. Oh, actually, I have a different pick. A throwback to one of the Blazers teams that actually did compete with championships. Do a bench wing in Jermon Kersey.
Oh, yeah.
Great pick.
Yeah, Kersey. Can't go wrong there.
Alrighty. Let's see. So I got my guard off the bench. I need to really, just keep with the physicality. No one's picked Jermaine O'Neal yet. If I get prime Jermaine O'Neal.
Yeah, Jermaine
Nice.
O'Neal. That's a really good. He honestly, that could have been a starter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
2 in a row for Kendall to close the 7th and begin the 8th round.
I think I'm gonna go with talking about throwback. I think I'm gonna go with Lionel Hollins.
Oh, I didn't know you
I like
played
it.
Portland.
Not Holland. Come on, iPhone. You can do this. Hollins. There we go. And let's see. I really want to do this based off the potential.
Do
I'm
it.
gonna go with Kevin Durant here,
Yeah.
best Blazer of all time that we got.
That isn't true.
No, I'm gonna go with Greg Oden. I think that Oden, if we're going off potential, Oden probably would have been one of the better centers, to be quite honest. So I know we never quite got to see it, but I really do think that Oden, just based off what we saw of him when he was healthy, was definitely on track to be one of our best centers of all time.
Does make more sense than Kevin
I guess that
Durant.
makes sense. Kevin Durant, yeah. Okay, so I had barely even heard of this guy. Like, I'm pretty sure I'd heard of his name, but looking at his stats, he averaged 22.3 points per game in the 70s. So I'm going to take forward/center Sidney Wicks.
Oh,
Wow. Never heard of him.
wow, he did.
Who played for Portland from
Oh.
1971 to 1976.
Oh, so almost NBA champion Sidney Wicks.
Maybe he
Yes.
did win one with another team.
True,
I'm
true.
not as brushed up on my history on that.
That is fair. That is fair. All right. That means it is now my pick for 2 picks. Am I correct?
You are.
Yeah.
Last
Yep.
to the 8th, first to the 9th.
All right. What do I need? It appears I could use another bench wing. This is where it starts to get very. Oh, you can't go wrong with glue, guys. And my glue guy, I'm going to take off the bench. Maybe not as raw talented as some of the dudes I could take, but I'm going to take Wes Matthews, get some grit on the
I
perimeter,
like that.
especially with Crawford out there. Need someone guarding someone out there. Oh, right. And so the next pick. I think. So sorry, I'm still looking.
It gets it's getting
It
tough.
gets tricky.
I'm
It
looking
gets
through
tricky.
I'm looking through this and like really trying to handpick out a couple.
I'm trying to find someone that is a sleeper, someone that makes me go, aha! I found him, which like I haven't yet, but like when I do,
But
I'll
when
say
that does happen,
when
That
that does
happens.
happen, yeah, I'm gonna be like, oh man, oh, well, I was gonna do a different bench big, but I think for my bench big, I'm gonna do prime Marcus Camby.
I like that.
all right.
Are you good? Was that your
Yeah.
9th round pick, John? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So something caught my eye, and then I know I've heard of this guy before. Again, we're totally 90s noobs here. Like, we don't know anything about like history
100%.
necessarily. But I went to this guy's, when I saw that this guy is in the Basketball Hall of Fame, I went to his page, and he had a pretty solid NBA career, but he only played for 4 years because tragically, 5 years, sorry. He actually tragically died in a car accident after his 5th NBA season. But he was absolutely incredible in Europe, and he'll bring me some shooting. I'm going to take Drazen Petrovic.
Huh. Interesting. So he died, what was it? You said 5, like he was playing for the Blazers for 5 years and then
So he played for Portland for his first 2 years, and then he went to the Nets. And then his last 2 years at the Nets, he averaged over 20 points a game, and then he died in a car accident.
wow. That's unfortunate.
Weird.
All right.
So Kendall for round 9 and 10, right?
Round 9, yeah, Kendall round 9. Then he'll take his last pick.
Okay. Nobody's taken Michael Thompson yet, right?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Oof.
do Michael Thompson.
Smart.
And then for my last pick, I want a little bit more scoring. I'm gonna take Jarrett Jack.
Hey,
Mm,
look at that.
what a bucket.
And
Definitely
that
a bucket.
finishes off my team.
Yeah, this is for the first time. I don't quite know where to go necessarily. Looking through. a
Yeah,
lot
I've
of
been
guys.
sweating bullets hoping that you take a while to pick.
Yeah.
I might take a hot sec to pick. I know roughly what position I want, but I
Yeah,
don't
me
want to
too.
like pick someone and then like go back in and look and be like, oh, what was I doing? Plus, I know my dad and grandpa are going to listen to this and just shake their head because we don't know anything about
Oh,
80s and 90s.
100%.
100%.
100%.
There's someone we're absolutely missing.
They're going to absolutely be. Yeah. It's not going to be the best look on us of all time. But you know what? We do it with confidence. And that's really all that matters, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So I heard some.
Well,
I would say so.
So for my bench, I've got CJ and Petrovic for a backcourt, O'Neal and Wicks for a front court. So I probably need a wing, which kind of actually eliminates a couple guys I see that are good, but unfortunately probably won't get picked just based. I apologize to everyone who's listening to this and is like, you guys are stupid.
We're stalling for time.
Hold on. This guy played for the Blazers? This guy played for the Blazers for 2 seasons?
Who do you got?
Give me Sean Kemp.
Oh,
What?
yeah, duh.
That
wow.
is crazy.
You know
At
that's
the end of his career, which I'm dang. Yeah, give me Sean Kemp, man.
Yeah, there's definitely gonna be somebody listening to this
that-
who the whole time was screaming, pick Sean Kemp while we're just standing here.
Yeah. And like obviously he wasn't in his prime in Portland because I was in Seattle, but hey, there you go.
See, now I feel
So
dumb
that-
picking Greg Oden over Sean Kemp.
I almost picked Joel Prisbilla, so it could be worse.
that somehow is worse.
I'm glad I took my time and found that because I was like, wait, because I actually didn't know Sean Kemp played in Portland.
I didn't either.
I didn't either.
Is it my pick now for the last?
Yeah, last pick of the draft.
So, I have a dude that I know played for Portland, but he's not on the list, which is kind of odd. But my pick is going to be Larry Nance Sr.
Interesting. Are you sure that he did play for Portland?
I remember hearing a story about it. Let me double check.
I feel like it would be on the
I have a
list.
different pick.
Yeah, he's a pretty big time player. Larry Nance Sr. We are all Googling it now.
I could have sworn, but I could be wrong.
I just feel like it'd be on there, but it's
He did
possible.
not play in Portland. He did not according to his Wikipedia. Phoenix and Cleveland.
I would say that I know more than his Wikipedia page. Well, in that case, I have a different guy. Again, a throwback. Maurice Lucas.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, he was actually in like the top 10 of the Bleacher Report all-time Blazers. We didn't.
Yeah, 100%.
Until
We
the
should
very last pick.
Him earlier.
I don't think that anybody picked Kevin Duckworth either.
I almost did earlier, but I didn't.
Duckworth, Buck Williams didn't get picked. Damon Stoudemire didn't get picked. I mean, like everyone except Steve Blake was a great pick. So, I mean,
Hey man, I kind of
This is
froze
true.
there for a second. I had to find a guard, and nothing was really quite fitting the mold there.
Kendall, do you feel comfortable explaining to a 90s Blazer fan that you picked Steve Blake over Kevin Duckworth and Buck Williams?
I'm really hoping people just don't listen this far into the podcast and don't hear that.
Kevin,
Or
do you,
picked him over someone like Jamal Crawford or CJ McCollum. Picked him over Danny Ainge, who did not get drafted at all.
true.
Hey man, I gotta show the love to Steve Blake out here. I mean, he's a friend of the pod, so I'm doing him a favor.
Yeah,
Well,
there you go.
Anyways, we'll be posting these on Instagram later for you guys to all just absolutely annihilate. And I will be offline for the next few days just to ignore that. So with that being said, we are moving on to our final segment of the day, which is Blazer Killers and Where Are They Now? We will start, though, with Where Are They Now? John, where are they now?
All right. This week we have a player who is definitely a lesser known Blazer. But of
Is it Larry
course,
Nance?
another fan
Yeah,
another fan favorite. This week we have former Blazer LeBron James.
Oh, not Kevin Durant?
I of course am kidding. We have former Blazer, of course, Von Wafer.
Yep.
And if you haven't heard of Von Wafer, that's okay. He only played for Portland for 8 games.
So really, no one knows where they are now.
100%. He averaged 2.5 points a game for Portland. So,
is he even on Google?
Did played 8 games. He did start 0 games. He hasn't played since 2012. He was a rookie in 2005. That's crazy. He did win a.
That's pretty interesting.
That's pretty interesting.
Man,
Von Wafer.
You got me hooked now.
I believe Von won a championship with the Celtics. No, I believe he lost the year that Kobe beat them in 7.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That sucks. He did play in Greece before the year he played for Boston, so he could have won a championship with Boston, but he was in Greece.
I'm kind of surprised that you didn't.
Let's see.
Kind of surprised you didn't put him in your
Can you
top
name
10,
it?
John.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 2 points a game is pretty good. I mean, that's about what Steve Blake averaged, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Hey, man.
Can you guys name any of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Probably
6 numbers that Von Wafer wore in the NBA?
Did he wear the number 13?
Yes, you somehow got one of them
Oh,
right.
let's go!
I think that's the
Let's
Portland one
go.
too. Let's see.
I can't
Out of
believe my luck.
curiosity, why has Von Wafer's numbers not been retired yet? And when will Dame
sorry,
get on
Von
this?
Wafer was 13 for the Rockets.
Hey, I still got one though, which I can't believe.
He was number 24 in Portland.
What?
That is incredibly surprising. Look at this smug dude.
Look at Vaughn.
I can't see it at all.
Yeah, I can't really see it either. But yep, that's
So sorry.
that's
there he is.
a little piece of Blazer
Vaughn's stuck
history.
in the old Rose Garden.
Got the
What-
old low shorts, the old 2000s Blazers.
How much would a Von Wafer highlight go for on Top Shots?
That's a great question.
$3-4.
I could probably flip that
Yeah,
for maybe
a
six
lot
and
of
a
money.
half. I'm looking at a $6.50 flip there. Well, John, thank you for enlightening us with some Von Wafer
100%.
conversation. Something that we didn't realize that we needed,
Of
and
course.
I'm still not sure we really
we'll
needed
definitely
it.
we're still gonna try and get him on the podcast.
Yeah, friend of the pod, Von Wafer.
Yeah, friend of the pod, 100%. Everybody's a friend of the pod here. Well, moving on to Blazer killers this week. There's a lot to choose from. I almost just went with Terry Stotts because that seemed like the most logical decision, but I decided to go with an actual player. This week we're going with Terry Rozier. Now, Terry is a little bit more established than the typical Blazer killer, but he did have a really solid game against us, I would say, or average game considering where we've been at. He got 34 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, a block, shot 7 of 13 from the 3-point line. I mean, kind of a typical game against our defense at this point. So it was fun to watch, fun to see. Good for Terry. We probably just got him a max deal for whenever his current contract's up. So shout out Terry Rozier. You have made this week's Blazer killer. And yeah.
At least one Terry did a good job.
Scary Terry.
Scary. One's a scary Terry, and the
There's
other is just
Two
a
scary
sad,
Terry.
Well, one's just a sad Terry at this point. So, well,
Well, I got depressing.
well, with this all being said, that's all we got for this week's episode. We'll be back though. We're looking at trying to get more interviews here very soon. We hope that you all liked our episode with Jared Lucas back last week. It was a blast having him on, and we are in talks possibly with getting some really good players on very soon. So
We'll see.
We'll see. But just throwing that out there, keep your eyes peeled. We're going to have some good stuff coming along. Hopefully we have a better week from the Blazers. We should have 2 of us here coming on soon doing another live for a Blazer game here. So keep your eye out on that for YouTube. With that being said, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Y Ball Starters, and hope you all have a great week.
Peace.
See ya.
I'll just do an outro tomorrow.
Cool. I can even make outros when I'm just editing.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah, because it's no biggie.